Today I thought I would do a special video today talking about one of the mysteries here in the UK that has always intrigued me every time I've read about it, and it is the case of the missing persons case of Andrew Gosden. So Andrew Gosden was 14 years old when he went missing on the 14th of September 2007. When his mum woke him up for school that morning, she said that he seemed a bit irritable that morning, which she said wasn't like him, because Andrew was normally always in a good mood, always happy to go to school. But this particular day, it didn't seem like that. He seemed a bit irritable. So he got ready, he didn't actually get the bus to school that day. He was sat in the park, and he waited until he knew that the rest of his family had left the house. He went back. He went to the bank first, withdrew £200 from his bank account, and then went home, changed out of his school uniform, changed it to in a different set of clothes, collected his PSP, and left the house and walked down to Doncaster railway station where he actually asked for a one-way ticket. Now, the woman who served it actually said that she had offered Andrew Gosden a return ticket, and she said that it would only cost around £1 more, but he said that he just wanted the one-way ticket to London, so she gave him the ticket. Now, there was a person sat next to him on the train, and they said that he was just like minding his own business. He was on his PSP most of the time. Now, there's a few things that don't add up, because Andrew left £100 in birthday money. He left that in his room. He didn't take any kind of warm clothing with him. However, a few days later, someone reported a sighting of him, and they said that he seemed to have obtained warm clothing from somewhere. Then you also had the fact that he didn't take the PSP charger with him. That fact alone kind of makes me question whether or not, actually makes me think that he was planning on returning home at some point. The fact that he took the PSP with him but didn't take the PSP charger with him, which you think he would have done. It kind of makes me think, well, maybe Andrew was planning on returning home at some point, but for some or other reason he didn't. But the thing is, the mystery that surrounds Andrew Gosden's disappearance is why he went down to London. Like, nobody knows why he went down to London that day or what he went down to London for. It's not really known. Because there were questions, maybe people were saying maybe Andrew is having problems with his sexuality and avoiding his parents and things like that. There's been so many different theories that have kind of, come about for why Andrew was, why Andrew had gone down to London that day. When I think about this, is like, did Andrew plan this? Was this something that Andrew had been planning to do? Like, have they ever been able to fully determine whether or not this was something that Andrew himself was planning to do? Because if he was planning to do this, there has to be a reason. There has to be a reason why Andrew was planning to do something like this. Because he wouldn't have just left the family home that day for absolutely no reason. There has to be a reason for why he would plan to do something like this. I mean, obviously, we know why he kind of came down to London. Obviously, we know that he had family connections in London, so maybe he was going to stay with them. There was a theory, I remember, people were saying maybe there was a gig, maybe one of the bands he listened to were playing a gig in London that day, and he was going to come down to London, stay with the family, and then go back. And he obviously, maybe he just didn't tell anyone because he knew that if he told anyone he was planning to go down to London for the gig, they'd say no, they were telling him he wasn't allowed to go. So he thought, well, I'll go and stay with the family in London and then come back the following day. But I mean, this has always seemed like a plausible theory, but it's never been a confirmed, possibility that that's what Andrew was thinking. Because we know that when he left the house that day, he was wearing a Slipknot t-shirt, which is obviously one of the bands he listened to. But obviously, it's a very, very difficult case with Andrew. I mean, there was a sighting of him about in Covent Garden. A woman spoke to a young lad, and she said to him, she asked him who he was, and she said that he looked like someone that she'd seen on the TV who had been reported missing. And he shut her down and said, "No, that's not me. I'm not that person." Off he went. Now, when the woman reported this sighting to the police, that sighting wasn't followed up by the Metropolitan Police until 6 weeks after she reported it, which is really, really bizarre. Obviously by the time they looked into it, it was a dead end. The any trace of Andrew had gone hold, by that point. I mean, it's just a mystery. I mean, every time I think about this case, I can't help but feel sorry for Andrew's parents, because when you think about it, they've never had that closure. They've never had that kind of definitive answer for what happened to their son, or whether their son is, alive or dead, because the body's never been found. We're talking, it's been 17 years now, and the body's never been found. Is there anyone is there a single person out there, is there anyone who doesn't actually believe that Andrew might still be alive and might still be out there somewhere? Because I've always felt that. I've always kind of felt that there is that possibility that Andrew could still be alive and he could still be out there somewhere. It amazes me to think that any one of us could have walked past Andrew Gosden in the street and just not realised it was him. But if you think about it, Andrew wouldn't be as recognisable as he was 17 years ago. Like, back then, he would have been very recognisable to people. People would have known. People would have been, would have easily been able to recognise him if it was him. But now it's like, even if it was him, people wouldn't have been able to recognise him, because obviously he'd be in his 30s now. I'd like to think that Andrew is still alive, and I'd like to think that he's still out there somewhere. And I feel like until they find a body, I won't believe that he's dead. But as I said, I can't help but feel sorry for Andrew's parents, because it doesn't feel like they will ever get that kind of definitive answer for what happened to Andrew. Like, they'll never know what happened to him, or they'll never know if he's alive or if he's dead. They'll never get that kind of finality. They'll never get that closure that they really need. This is what Andrew's parents need more than anything in the world, is that little bit of closure. And it doesn't feel like they'll ever get that kind of closure that they really need, to be honest. And that's why it's kind of so sad. You can't help but feel for Andrew's family, because this is just horrible. I can't imagine how hard and how awful the past 17 years has been for his family. Like, wondering if they'll ever see him again. Wondering if he's still out there somewhere. Not knowing. I think that not knowing, it would drive me insane. It would drive me insane not knowing if my son was out, if my child was out, was out there somewhere or not. It would be enough to drive anyone insane, and it's just a horrible situation. But as I said, I do think that day when Andrew went missing, I do think he was planning on returning home. Because why would he take the PSP? There's just a big question to it. Is why would he take the PSP console, but not take the charger for it? Unless he was actually planning on returning home. This is what people need to look at. Is the fact that he took the PSP charger, the PSP with him, but he didn't take the PSP charger with him. So was he planning on returning home at some point? I think there's always been that vibe that maybe he was planning to return home at some point. It's so crazy when you think about the fact that he got the train down to London that morning. He was he was seen on CCTV leaving Heathrow station, and then since then he's not been seen since. It's like, and it feels like Andrew has actually vanished off the face of the earth. They've never found a body. It's never been confirmed that he's actually alive. And it's been 17 years. In another few years, it would have been 20 years since Andrew went missing, and they've still not kind of been given any kind of definitive answer to where he is, or if he's still out there somewhere. I mean, as I said, I'd love to believe that Andrew is still out there somewhere, and I do feel like there is that possibility that he is still out there somewhere. But that's not something I don't think anyone will ever get. There'll never be an answer to this mystery. I don't think there'll ever be an conclusion to this mystery. I feel like Andrew's whereabouts and whether the question of him being alive or dead is something that will forever remain a mystery. I don't think this is one of those mysteries that will ever be solved or ever be fully solved. When you think about the fact it's been 17 years and there's still been no conclusion to this mystery, they've still not solved it, shows, how big this is. I mean, I often think about it. I think like, maybe, could Andrew Gosden be going by a different identity now? Maybe he's not going by the name he was going by before. Maybe he's going by a different name now. Because he could be living, he could be living under a new name now. It's not entirely impossible. But as I say, it's just crazy to think that any one of us would have walked past Andrew Gosden in the street and not realised him. And not realised it was him. And like, oh, yeah, I mean, it's just mad, really, when you think about it. Like, I mean, what was his? This is what then, like, I don't think anybody can really get that understanding of his. What was his reason for travelling down to London that day? Like, no, I think that's not really something that people can kind of get to the bottom of. Is like, why did he travel down to London that day? What was his his sole reason for wanting to travel down to London that day? Because we know that he didn't talk to anyone online or whatever. I know there was a story where someone went into Leominster police station, and they pressed the intercom and they said that they had information relating to the case of Andrew Gosden. And by the time the police officer came down to speak to that person had gone. They'd left the police station. And I think it was in 2017 or 2018, someone reported an online conversation with a person going by the name of Andy Rue. Now, the reason this was significant was because Andy Rue was the nickname that Andrew's parents had for him. And this person had said that they'd gone into a conversation with this Andy Rue person, and this Andy Rue person told them that they needed money because their boyfriend had left them, and their partner had left them, and they needed £200 for rent. And when this person had offered to transfer some money over to them, this Andy Rue person had told them that they didn't have a bank account because they'd left their family home when they were 14 years old. Now, that's pretty crazy to think about. I'm not saying this means anything. I'm not saying, oh my God, it's not like I'm looking at that and I'm going, oh my God, this person was actually having a conversation with Andrew bloody Gosden. Because what people need to think about is that there are some sickos out there, and that would very well have been somebody who was pretending to be Andrew, who obviously knew some of the facts of the case, and they were actually pretending to be Andrew. But there are some sickos out there. There are some sick individuals out there that would do something that was something as disgusting as that. You know, it's not completely out of the realms of possibility to think that, you know, this was someone pretending to be him. Like, I'd love more than anything in the world to believe that the person that this person was having a conversation with was in fact Andrew himself, but it just doesn't feel like it's that much of a possibility that he was having a conversation with Andrew himself. You know, it feels like it's more of a possibility that it was just someone that, like, it feels like there's a higher chance that it was just someone pretending to, some sicko pretending to actually be Andrew or posing as him. You know, so as I said, there are some low-life scumbags out there that would very well do something like that and would think it was okay to actually do something like that. You know, and they don't, when people do things like that, they don't sort of think about the distress that causing for the family, because something like that would have given Andrew's family a lot of hope. You know, they would have thought, oh, maybe it's Andrew himself reaching out to someone. But then you find out that it was someone pretending to be, and it's like, how would they feel? Like, imagine how they feel if, knowing that it was probably more than likely someone pretending to be their son. It's just awful, But this whole case itself is just one of the the most bizarre cases I've ever heard, I've ever seen. It's what did Andrew do? Where did he go after he left his station that day? It's so weird how he just seemed to vanish after he was seen on camera leaving his cross. He was never seen again. Or he was never heard from. I still, I thought, I know there's that theory that maybe he was kidnapped or something, or he was abducted by someone outside the station. Well, I don't know. I don't know what to believe, because I don't think there's anything out there that could really be properly believed. That's the problem, it's like there's so much information out there, it's hard to know what to believe, because you don't know what to believe. It's a tricky one. I want to believe that, I want to believe that maybe he was, there's just, I don't know what to believe really with this case. It's so weird. I know Andrew's parents said that there were a lot of sightings that were of Andrew that were reported that weren't followed up. But I'm guessing maybe the reason why a lot of those sightings weren't followed up is because the police knew that they would be hitting a dead end, and knew that looking into these sightings would be a waste of time, because it wouldn't come up with anything. It would be a dead end. Because when you think about the fact that people were reporting sightings of Andrew in places like Southend, Plymouth, Birkenhead, and places like that, it's like, why would he be in why would he be in places like that? Where it's like, it seems strange that he would be in places like, the sightings of him, when his last known sighting was of him leaving Innsbruck Station that morning of the 14th of September 2007. Why the frick would he be in places like Birkenhead or Plymouth or places like that, or Southend? Someone reported seeing him in a pub in Southend. That was probably more than some drunk, that was probably more than likely some drunken idiot. That one, I do feel sorry for that. As I said, though, I do feel sorry for Andrew's parents more than anything in the world. It's just like, they've never had that finality, have they? They've never had that closure. They've never been given a definitive answer for what happened to Andrew. They still don't know. 17 years on from their son going missing that morning. They still don't know whether he's still alive. They still don't know if he's dead or if he's still out there somewhere. You know, they don't know that for definite. You know, no one knows for definite if Andrew is alive or, you know, or if he's dead. You know, I would love more, you know, more than anything in the world for his family, for his parents to finally get that closure and to finally get that definitive answer. But it feels like that feels like something that will never happen. It feels like they will never get that closure they deserve, or they will never actually get that definitive answer for what happened to their son. You know, and or he's alive or dead. You know, and it breaks my heart for them. It really does. You know, if you think about how awful this past 17 years has been for them, you know, and it's like, you know, it's like if they've given up hope that that they'll see him again, you know, like do his parents still believe he's out there somewhere? Do they still believe that he's still? Do they believe that he's still alive? You know, do they think that they'll see? Do they still think they'll see him? Or, you know, it's a very bizarre case, isn't it? This one, it's like, especially when you think about the fact that this is one of those cases that has never been solved, and is probably more than likely never going to be solved. It's just so crazy, you know, and it's so bizarre. Like, it just doesn't make sense how a guy board the train from Doncaster to London would be seen leaving on CCTV, leaving the station and leaving Hintercross station, and then he's never seen it, and he like vanishes into thin air. You know, it's like he's gone, poof, you know, he's just gone poof and vanished. You know, it's just madness, really. But, you know, there's not a day that goes by where I don't think about Andrew's family, and my thoughts are always with them. I'm always thinking about them. My thoughts are always with them. You know, I just hope that his parents are doing well. I hope that they're okay. I hope that, you know, and I hope that one day, whether that's in a year's time or 5 years' time or whatever, I hope that one day they really do get that final answer. They really do get that closure, and they really do get that sort of definitive answer that they really deserve. You know, and I hope they really hope, you know, that, you know, it's just horrible, really, isn't it? You know. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this little video, and I'll see you for another one soon. Adios. Bye bye.